Is Trump's blue-eyed boy now balancing away from Washington as a new Islamic security bloc takes shape? Will Russia remain a major Middle Eastern power, even as Syria rewrites Moscow's old military arrangements? Are Russia and Damascus now preparing to jointly control the bases that once served as Moscow's Mediterranean strongholds? Is this bad news for Washington, as Putin preserves a strategic foothold inside a Syria that is moving closer to Western capitals? Is Syria rewriting its alliances, just as Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Pakistan forge a new regional defense pact? On August 9th, Syria said it had reached a new memorandum of understanding with Russia, covering the future of Moscow's two strategic coastal bases. Syria will take over civilian management of Hmeimim Airport and Tartous Port's commercial berth, gradually incorporating both facilities into its national civilian administration. The facilities that previously functioned as Russian military bases will instead be reorganized as joint Russian-Syrian training and qualification centers. The agreement followed 18 months of intensive negotiations over the future scale and format of Moscow's military footprint in Syria. A transition period lasting no more than 3 months will now begin, ending Russia's exclusive control over the sites under the new arrangement. Hmeimim and Tartous once powered Moscow's air and naval campaign in support of Bashar al-Assad during Syria's civil war. After al-Assad's fall, Moscow offered him asylum and gradually reduced forces in Syria while negotiating to preserve its strategic access. Syrian officials described this deal as the biggest shift since talks over Moscow's bases first began 18 months ago. President Ahmed al-Sharaa has engaged Putin repeatedly since taking power, with the future of Russia's bases remaining central to their discussions. Syria has also deepened its engagement with Washington, European capitals, and Arab states since the fall of the Assad government. Washington lifted many major sanctions as Damascus moved closer to Western capitals, opening a new phase in Syria's diplomatic and economic reintegration. The development came days after Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan signed a mutual defense pact, adding another major shift to the regional security order. Ebrahim Razaei, a member of Iran's Parliamentary National Security and Foreign Policy Committee, reacted on August 7 after Saudi Arabia signed the new defense agreement with Turkey and Pakistan in Mecca. Razaei posted his response on X, directly criticizing the newly signed Mecca Joint Deterrence Agreement and warning Riyadh not to mistake new partners for guaranteed protection. Ebrahim Razaei said, and I quote, "Saudis must know that a paper agreement with Turkey and Pakistan will not bring them security. Just as years of one-sided nursing to the Americans did not bring them security. Reform your policies so that you do not need to beg for security from others." End quote. Iran's warning comes at a time of growing security concerns for Saudi Arabia, as conflict in the Gulf and Red Sea increases the risks facing the kingdom's cities, infrastructure, and energy export routes. Earlier in the regional conflict, Iran launched attacks against Saudi-linked targets using drones and missiles, presenting them as retaliation against states it accused of facilitating U.S. military operations. Tehran has argued that any country providing territory, facilities, or practical support for U.S. action against Iran could be treated as part of the confrontation and therefore exposed to retaliation. While Iran has not recently claimed direct strikes against Saudi Arabia, Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi movement has continued attacks and threats against Saudi-linked vessels, ports, and oil infrastructure. The Houthis declared a naval blockade of Saudi Arabia after Saudi strikes on Houthi-held Yemen, saying Saudi-connected ships and vessels using Saudi Red Sea ports could be targeted. The Houthi blockade and wider Iran war have put Saudi oil export routes under major pressure, threatening to reduce flows through the Red Sea and creating new uncertainty for Riyadh's energy revenues and global markets. Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan signed a mutual defense agreement in Mecca on August 7, bringing their leaders together amid heightened regional turmoil and security concerns across the Gulf. The pact unites three major Sunni Muslim powers that each retain important, though very different, relationships with the United States, combining Saudi financial influence, Turkish military-industrial capacity, and Pakistan's armed forces. Notably, none of the three states maintains full diplomatic relations with Israel, creating a rare security grouping of U.S.-linked powers that remains politically separate from Washington's closest Middle Eastern partner. Turkey, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia signed the deal amid a widening Gulf crisis, with regional states facing attacks, threats, and growing uncertainty following the confrontation between Iran, the United States and Israel. Turkey brings NATO's second-largest military by personnel. Saudi Arabia contributes immense Gulf influence and defense spending, while Pakistan adds a battle-tested military and the only nuclear arsenal in the Muslim world. Riyadh has been seeking to deepen security cooperation with key partners as it looks for stronger deterrence and more reliable regional arrangements beyond traditional dependence on Washington. At the same time, Saudi Arabia has raised alarm over growing regional threats from Iran-aligned groups, particularly as maritime, missile and drone risks have increased across the Gulf and Red Sea. However, the full text and operational details of the agreement were not immediately released, leaving open major questions about joint command, deployment obligations, intelligence sharing and the exact meaning of mutual defense. Saudi Arabia and Pakistan already signed a mutual defense pact in September 2025, stating that aggression against one country would be treated as an attack against both, making Turkey's inclusion a potentially major expansion. Pakistan has provided training, advisory support, and technical military assistance to Saudi Arabia for decades, creating an established defense relationship that the 2025 pact and new trilateral deal now deepen. Pakistan has reportedly deployed around 8,000 troops, a fighter squadron, drone units, and a Chinese-made HQ-9 air defense system to Saudi Arabia under its mutual defense arrangement with Riyadh. Turkey and Pakistan have built extensive defense ties through training, naval cooperation, aviation exchanges, weapons development and joint exercises, giving the new framework a base of existing military interoperability. Saudi Arabia agreed to purchase Turkish Bayraktar drones in a deal described as Turkey's largest defense and aviation export contract, with technology transfer and joint production also included. Turkey's possible return to the F-35 program is another major development Israel will monitor, although Washington has not made a final decision and U.S. law still requires Ankara to meet conditions related to its Russian S-400 system. The reported deal would open the door for Turkey to procure F-35A jets from the United States.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.